A tremor took hold of the planet. Sprung from death, it unleashed its powerful wave, at once burrowing deep into the world's core and radiating through its subterranean atmosphere to shake the stars themselves. At the quake's epicenter stood Sidious, one elegant hand vised on the burnished steel of an expansive translucency. A vessel filled suddenly to bursting, the force so strong within him that he feared he might disappear into it, never to return. But the moment didn't constitute an ending so much as a beginning, long overdue. It was less a transformation than an intensification, a gravatic shift. A welter of voices, near and far, present and from eons past, drowned his thoughts. Raised in praise, the voices proclaimed his reign and cheered the inauguration of his new order. Yellow eyes lifted to the night sky. He saw the trembling stars flare, and in the depth of his being he felt the power of the dark side anoint him. Slowly, almost reluctantly, he came back to himself, his gaze settling on his manicured hands. Returning to the present, he took note of his rapid breathing, while behind the room labored to restore order. Air scrubbers hummed, costly wall tapestries undulated in the summoned breeze, prized carpets sealed their fibers against the spread of spilled liquids. The droids shuffled in obvious confliction. Sidious pivoted to take in the disarray. Antiquated furniture overturned, framed awkward askew, as if a whirlwind had swept through, and face down, lying on the floor, laid a statue of Yanjon, one of the 4 law-giving sages of Duarte. A piece Sidious had secretly coveted. Also sprawling there, Plagueis, his slender limbs splayed, an elongated head turning to one side, dressed in finery, as for a night on the town. And now dead. Or was he? Uncertainty rippled through Sidious, rage returning to his eyes, a tremor of his own making, or one of the forewarning. Was it possible that this wily Mun had deceived him? Had Plagueis unlocked the key to immortality and survived after all? Never mind what it would constitute a petty move for one so wise, for one who had professed to place the grand plan above all else. Had Plagueis become ensnared in his own self-spun web of jealousy and possessive, victim of his own engineering, his own foibles? If he had concern for his own safety, Sidious might have pitied him. Wary of the approaching of the corpse of his former master, he called on the Force to roll the aged Mun onto his back. From the angle, Plagueis looked almost as he had when Sidious first met him, decades earlier. Smooth, hairless cranium, humped nose, with a bridge flattened as though a shock ball blow, and its sharp tip pressed almost to his upper lip, jutting his lower jaw. Sunken eyes, still brimming with menace, a physical characteristic rarely encountered in a Mun. But then, Plagueis had never been ordinary Mun, nor an ordinary being of any sort. Sidious took care, still reaching out with the Force. On closer inspection, he saw that Plagueis already syndicated his own flesh was smoothing out, his features relaxing. Faintly aware of the whirl of air scrubbers and sounds of the outside world infiltrating this luxurious suite, he continued the vigil. Then in relief he pulled himself up to his full height and let out his breath. This was no Sith trick, not an insurance of feigning death, but one of succumbing to its cold embrace. The being who had guided him to his power was gone. Wry amusement narrowed his eyes. The Mun may have lived another 100 years unchanged, might have lived forever, had he succeeded fully in his quest. But in the end, though he could save others from death, he could not save himself. A sense of supreme accomplishment puffed Sidious's chest, and his thoughts unreeled. Well then, that wasn't nearly as bad as we thought it might be. Rarely did events play out as he imagined. In any case, the order of future events was transient, in the same way that the past was reconfigured by selective memory. Future events, too, were moving targets. One could only act on instinct, grab a hold of an intuited perfect moment, and spring into action. One heartbeat later, and the universe would have recomposed itself. no imposition of will sufficient to forestall the current events. Only one could only obscure and observe and react. Surprise was the only element absent from any periodic table, a keystone element, a missing ingredient, the means by which the force amused itself, a reminder to all sentient beings that some secrets could never be unlocked. Confident that the will of the dark side had been done, he returned to the suite's window wall. 2 beings in the galaxy of countless trillions, but what had transpired in that suite would affect the lives of all of them. Already the galaxy had been shaped by the birth of one, and henceforth would be reshaped by the death of the other. But had the change been felt and recognized elsewhere, where the sworn enemies of the force have shifted irrevocably? Would it be enough to rouse them from their self-righteousness? He hoped not. For now the work of vengeance could begin in earnest. His eyes sought and found an ascending constellation of stars, one of power and consequence in the new sky, though they would soon be overwhelmed by the dawn's first light. Low in the sky over the flatlands, visible only to those who knew where and how to look, it ushered in a bold future. To some the stars and planets might seem to be moving as ever, destined to align in configurations calculated long before their fiery births. But in fact the heavens had been protruded, tugged by dark matter into novel alignments. In his mouth tasted the tang of blood. In his chest he felt the monster rising, emerging from the shadowy depths, and contorted his aspect into something fearsome, just short of revealing itself to the world. The dark side had made him its property, and now he would make the dark side his, breathless, not from exertion, but from sudden inspiration of power. He would let go of the sill and allow the monster to writhe through his body like an unbroken beast of rage or prairie. Had the force ever been so strong in anyone? Sidious had never learned how Plagueis' own master had met his end. Had he died at Plagueis' hand? Had Plagueis too expired on similar exhalation to becoming the sole Sith Lord? Had the beast of the end time risen to the peak of the world it was about to inhabit, knowing it would release what was imminent? He raised his gaze to the epilogue. The answers were out there, coded in light, speeding through space and time, liquid fire coursing through them. Visions of the past and future riffled through his mind. He opened himself to the reconfigured galaxy, as if in an effort to peel away the decades. Star Wars Darth Plagueis, the prologue. Oh my gosh, that was... Wow, that was interesting.